The Galactic assembly gathered under the shining lights of the Grand Hall, laughter echoing across the dome. The screens displayed Earth's final message, calm, short, and without threats. Some ambassadors giggled. Others outright mocked it. They send no ships. They have no teeth, one alien delegate chuckled, his scaled tail flicking lazily. Another, a tall four-eyed diplomat, said, perhaps they hide behind rocks. Or perhaps they have already run. For months, the humans had refused to respond to rising aggression. The Rim worlds accused Earth of violating trade codes. The core alliances claimed humanity was spreading too fast. Sanctions followed. Then sabotage. And finally, silence from Earth. Now, the assembly believed Earth was broken. Defeated. Forgotten. At the back of the chamber stood Commander Wren, one of the few who didn't laugh. He had once worked with humans, seen their strange ways and quiet strength. He knew they watched. They always watched. What if they don't laugh back, he muttered, but no one listened. In orbit above the assembly world, fleets from over 50 species stood ready. Giant cruisers, battle beasts, and mind-controlled weapon ships filled the void. They were there to make sure Earth's silence remained permanent. Then the stars blinked, first, 1. Then 2. Then 50. Sensors screamed across the orbital stations. Unknown signals poured in, strange, encrypted, and terrifyingly precise. Ships that didn't match any known class appeared. A second later, the sky lit up, hundreds of dark, angular ships emerged from hyperspace. Black as the void, they moved without visible engines. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't. Flashlights, they simply arrived. The assembly's laughter died. In the control tower above the assembly dome, panic spread fast. Officers scrambled to identify the fleet. All signals were Earth-based, but these ships were nothing like the old Terran cruisers from previous scans. They weren't here yesterday. How did they pass the scanners? What are those things? On the central screen, a single word blinked. Sent from the lead Terran ship, watching. Wren stepped forward. His hands were cold. I told you, he whispered, his voice shaking. They weren't hiding. They were planning. One of the senior ministers shouted, send the peace signal. Now. Let them know this was a mistake. But it was too late. From the clouds above the capital, shadows fell. The black ships moved in perfect silence, forming a circle. Their sides opened not with weapons, but with something worse, cameras. They were broadcasting, not just to the assembly. Not just to the Rim worlds, but to every corner of the galaxy. A silent warning, Earth had come, and it had not come to talk. The images streamed through every screen, satellite, and station. From rich core planets to cold mining moons, every species saw the same feed, Earth's fleet, black and endless, blocking out the stars like a moving eclipse. The silence of the broadcast was louder than any war cry. There was no music. No voice. Just cold footage from Earth's own cameras. Ships, sharp-edged, scarred, and built for war, hovered over the assembly planet like executioners waiting for the signal. In the assembly hall, panic broke loose. Delegates screamed at assistants to open channels to Earth. Some ran. Others wept. A few, like the ambassador from the Terran Union, simply stared in shock. We were wrong, she whispered, her feathers trembling. We pushed too far. Commander Wren stayed rooted. This is Earth's reply. This is what they do. Not with threats. Not with words. But with presence. A security drone buzzed overhead, broadcasting an emergency evacuation alert. Outside, the assembly guards formed lines, unsure whether to aim their weapons upward or escort diplomats out, and then the screen changed again. A face appeared, human. Middle-aged. Calm. Wearing a black uniform with no medals, no rank, only the Terran Earth emblem glowing faintly on the shoulder, his voice was low. Controlled. Measured. You called Earth weak. You mocked us. Sabotaged our systems. Blocked our trade. And then you laughed when we fell silent. We heard everything. We watched everything. And now we speak. The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. No more debates. No more councils. No more lies behind smiling masks. This fleet above your world is not here for war. It is here so you can understand what war would look like. The image zoomed out, revealing thousands of Terran ships forming geometric formations, perfect, synchronized, terrifying. Even seasoned military tacticians across the galaxy stared in disbelief. Earth hadn't just built a fleet, they had designed a message. Every detail, from the ship formations to the sudden appearance, had been planned to control fear itself. One council member in the hall shouted, "It's a bluff. They won't fire." Seconds later, a ripple of blue light lit up the sky as one of the Terran vessels fired a single beam. It struck the moon that circled the assembly planet. Quietly. Surgically. The moon didn't explode, it melted, collapsing into a glowing sea of molten rock. The fleet hadn't touched the planet, but the warning was clear. They could. Ren looked up, his voice grim. Now the galaxy knows what Earth was doing in silence. The human on the screen finished with 4 final words. This is only discipline. The broadcast ended. No music. No threats. Just darkness, and the galaxy, for the first time in generations, remembered what it meant to fear. The assembly fell into chaos. Dozens of species, once proud and arrogant, now shouted over each other, trying to take control of the crisis. Translators broke down under the weight of panic. Holograms flickered. Some ambassadors demanded war, others screamed for peace. One minister from the core alliance collapsed, clutching his chest. His aides rushed to help, but the cameras still rolled. The Terran fleet had not moved. It only hovered, quiet and cold above them all. In the middle of the chaos, Commander Ren activated his personal comms and contacted the human fleet. The signal was answered immediately. "State your purpose," a human voice said. Ren hesitated. "This is Commander Ren. I'm a neutral party. A request. I beg clarity." A short pause followed. "We don't speak for entertainment," the voice replied. "We act for understanding." The signal cut. Ren stared at his console, sweat beading on his forehead. Down below, assembly security had fully mobilized. Armored guards escorted diplomats to underground shelters. Shuttles were grounded. Orbiting fleets of other species remained. Still, unsure whether to retreat or fire. In one of the private chambers, an emergency session had begun. The surviving high officials crowded around a long black table. "We must respond with force," one growled, "and die in seconds." Another shouted. "Did you not see what they did to the moon?" "They haven't attacked us directly," said a third. "Perhaps there's still time to fix this," an old, slow-speaking diplomat, one of the longest serving in the council, finally raised a hand. "The mistake," he said quietly, "was never in what Earth did." Everyone turned to him. It was in believing silence meant weakness. His words hung in the air like the Terran ships above. Moments later, a message was drafted. To Earth Command, we offer our deepest apologies for the wrongs done. We seek peace. We humbly request an audience to speak. Please, no more shows of force. The message was transmitted on all channels. Minutes passed. Then one ship in the Terran fleet blinked. Slowly, silently, it descended through the clouds and hovered above the assembly tower. It didn't fire. Instead, a pod dropped. The crowd scattered. Security aimed their weapons, unsure. The pod hissed as it opened and revealed a single human diplomat stepping out, unarmed, calm, alone. She walked forward with slow steps, looking not at the soldiers, but at the sky. Her presence alone spoke of quiet confidence. She carried no flag, no weapon. Only a small silver device in her hand. At the door of the assembly hall, she paused, then she spoke. "I'm here to explain what silence means on Earth." Asterisk. Earth's silence was the warning. The human woman stepped into the assembly hall like she owned the stars. Every being inside, the diplomats, the guards, the aides, watched her with a strange mix of fear and curiosity. She didn't walk like someone desperate to make peace. She walked like someone offering one last chance. The silver device in her hand activated, projecting a map above the assembly's central table. It showed known galactic territories, glowing in different colors. Then Earth systems lit up, spreading far wider than expected. More systems blinked to life. Secret colonies. Outposts. Military routes hidden from public records. Dozens, no, hundreds, gasps filled the chamber. She looked at them and spoke calmly. "You believed Earth was isolated. Small. Naive. You believed we had no allies. No reach, no response. She pointed to a red-marked cluster on the edge of the map. This was your attack on our outpost 2 years ago. You killed 113 of our people. Scientists. Engineers. She tapped another point. This was your blockade, starving out our colony on Vent-Ruz. A third. This is where you tried to steal Terran warp tech. You sent agents. They failed. The map zoomed out. The red dots were swallowed by Earth's expanding blue influence. And this, she said, letting the blue surge fill over half the galaxy, is what we built while you laughed. No one spoke. A delegate from the Grell Confederation stood, trying to speak, but his translator failed. His voice trembled. In 5 languages, the human diplomat lowered the device. We gave the galaxy a chance. For years, we stayed quiet. Watched. Documented. Calculated. We hoped you'd come to your senses. But instead, you grew bold. You grew cruel. She stepped forward toward the council floor, her voice sharper now. Earth is not here to destroy you. We are here to make sure you never try to destroy us again. A second map appeared, this one showing fleet positions. Terran fleets were stationed in key systems, ready, silent, coiled like predators waiting to strike. You have one chance. Step down from your threats. Accept a new balance. Or we will teach you what war on a death world truly looks like. Silence returned, but it was no longer the silence of powerlessness. It was the silence before judgment. Commander Wren finally stood. What happens if we choose peace? The human diplomat looked at him, and this time, her voice softened just slightly. Then Earth will stand guard with you. But never under you. And just like that, the meeting ended. She walked back toward the shuttle waiting outside. The assembly sat frozen. Earth had made its point, and now the galaxy had to choose. The galaxy chose fear, Earth chose control. 4 hours, the assembly remained frozen in silence. Messages poured in from every system. Outlying worlds begged for clarification. Trading alliances demanded stability. Civilian networks questioned everything they'd been told about Earth. Some governments began pulling back their warships. Others ordered full retreat from Terran borders. A few more extreme factions debated launching preemptive strikes, but those were silenced quickly by internal protests. No one wanted to risk the wrath of Earth. In the inner chamber, a crisis vote was held. With trembling hands, the delegates agreed on one truth: Earth was not a member of the Galactic Order anymore. Earth was the enforcer now. Outside, the Terran fleet had not moved. It hovered in perfect formation, casting a quiet shadow over the skies of the assembly world. The human diplomat had returned to her pod and was lifted into the command vessel without a single word. From orbit, the lead Terran ship sent a final broadcast, one that echoed across all known systems. No further aggression from this council will be tolerated. Your fleets will stand down. Your borders will be respected. And from this moment forward, Earth will no longer wait to be invited. Across the stars, Earth's colonies activated dormant systems. Stealth satellites reappeared. Deep space cruisers decloaked. Worlds that had once begged for Terran help now realigned themselves under its protection. Old enemies, pirate kings, rogue warlords, outlaw fleets, vanished almost overnight. Not because they were destroyed, but because they knew Earth was watching. On the assembly world, Commander Wren watched it all unfold on the main screen. Behind him, the alien leaders whispered among themselves. One delegate finally said, "So Earth rules us now." Wren shook his head slowly. "No. Earth doesn't want to rule you." He turned, voice grim. "Earth just wants to make sure you never rule them." Outside the city, crowds gathered. Civilians from dozens of species stared at the sky, where the Terran ships shimmered in orbit like silent gods. Parents held children close. Traders locked their shops. Soldiers lowered their weapons, and then, without ceremony, the Terran fleet turned point. One by one, the black ships disappeared into hyperspace, vanishing as suddenly as they had arrived. No fire. No battle. No destruction, just one final reminder that Earth had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. New order written in silence. Weeks passed. The galaxy, once loud with power struggles and territorial disputes, had fallen into an eerie calm. No wars broke out. No fleets crossed into forbidden zones. The great trade routes reopened, but now under strict Terran observation. Earth hadn't claimed territory. It hadn't issued ultimatums beyond its broadcast, and yet, everything had changed. A silent order had taken hold. On distant mining colonies. Pirates who once ruled with terror fled at the first rumor of a human scout ship. On rimworlds, where Earth science teams had once been hunted or sabotaged, those same teams now walked freely, escorted, respected, and feared. The assembly restructured itself in secret. Publicly, they claimed unity. Behind closed doors, they removed the most vocal anti-Earth leaders. A new agreement was drafted, never to be called a treaty, but everyone knew its purpose. The Terran Accord.it stated, no species shall block Earth's exploration again. No sabotage, interference, or surveillance against human colonies. Earth shall not be summoned, only invited. And if Earth's silence ever returns, the galaxy must remember what followed last time. On Earth, the Council of Command remained silent as well. No celebrations. No official announcements. The message had already been sent, and it had been louder than war. Inside one of Earth's Deep Space Command bunkers, Admiral Keller stood in front of a display showing all Terran fleets. Red markers blinked, each indicating a ship currently shadowing a foreign fleet. He turned to the diplomat who had spoken before the assembly. You were right, he said. No need to fire. Just show them what we built in the dark. The diplomat nodded. We lost good people in silence. That silence deserved a voice. Keller smiled faintly. It had won. You. Outside the bunker, Earth remained unchanged to the average eye. Cities still buzzed. Children played. Scientists worked, but deep beneath the surface, the Deathworlders waited, not to rule. Not to conquer. To remind. On a broadcast from a fringe colony, a young reporter asked a question many had been too afraid to say out loud. What happens if someone challenges Earth again? The broadcast was cut short, but everyone knew the answer. Asterisk. When Deathworlders speak, the stars go silent. A month after Earth's silent show of force, the galaxy looked different. Not in size or shape, but in behavior. The loudest empires had grown quiet. The boldest warlords had disappeared. Even the assembly, once filled with arguing voices and empty threats, now held meetings behind locked doors, careful with every word. No one dared to challenge Earth again, but it wasn't fear of destruction. It was fear of misunderstanding, because everyone knew Earth didn't threaten. Earth acted. On a distant moon near the edge of known space, a minor species, the Valari, ignored the accord. Believing Earth's silence meant disinterest, they blockaded a Terran science vessel. It had no weapons. Just 4 humans studying planetary rings, the Valari boasted on local networks. Calling Earth weak again, the humans on the ship didn't respond. They simply activated a distress pinpoint. 6 hours later, without warning, a single black ship appeared above the Valari homeworld. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It just hovered, silent and visible on every Valari screen. Then it disappeared. No message followed. The Valari withdrew all ships, issued a formal apology, and shut down their outer fleets permanently. Their leader resigned within the week. The message was clear. Earth had stopped whispering. Now, it just watched. In the heart of Earth's command station, the diplomat stood again in front of the same stars she had once pointed to. She watched the screen as reports came in: new trade agreements, stronger protections for Terran colonies, and planets that once feared humanity now asking for alliances. But she said nothing. There was no need. Behind her, a young officer asked, "Is it over?" She replied quietly, "No." The officer blinked. "Then what now?" She turned, her eyes steady. "Now we return to what we always were: builders, explorers, protectors." He looked confused. "But we made the whole galaxy afraid." Her answer came without hesitation. "We didn't make them afraid. We reminded them why they should have been listening." She looked out at the stars one more time. "Let them laugh again, someday. That's fine. But if they do," she smiled faintly, "they'll check the sky first." And above every world, in every corner of space, the stars remained unchanged, but behind them, hidden in the dark, humanity was watching. The END asterisk.